guys. As far as the injuries are concerned, Alaric will end up being, listed on here, illness. This was always part of the plan because we're going to modify his workload on Fridays. Nothing's changed. He's going to be ready to go on Sunday. So this is just a result of, semantics in terms of, managing the medicine, different things like that. He's had a great week. Kello got a little bit of a knee. He's going to be out there today. Don't expect it to affect his availability. And then Rob will have him as a veteran rest day. So we expect to have all hands on deck, ready to roll for a great challenge on Sunday. This is too good to be true.
That's wonderful. Do you know exactly what happened with Kello?
Yeah, he just felt a little something in his knee. I think it was more just, he's obviously, these guys these premier athletes on the perimeter, he felt something. We're always erring on the side of caution with him. And so it was more of just precautionary, but talking to him after practice, even the other day and seeing him this morning, he feels good. He knows his body really well just with the experience he's accumulated. And so being more safe than sorry. Yep.
How does that influence your strategy?
I mean, it affects. I think you have tremendous respect for what D'Amico's about. This good distraction over there with the dummy being able to be just banged up right there. Okay, but there's just a lot of respect, a lot of appreciation for the style of play, the commitment to a philosophy, understanding the types of players that can really bring that to life. I think when you look at what D'Amico's done in 2 years. He has quickly put his imprint on that football team. They play hard. There's a certain philosophy at which they play, and I think it's a lot of times reflected in his personality. I mean that in a positive way. So it's a great challenge, but that's what makes this stuff worth it. Is every single week you feel like you're up here. Great coaching, great players, and this is a team that's won their division the last couple years, been to the divisional round, and they've got a lot of cool pieces that they've added. They've got a new offensive coordinator who we're familiar with, but don't know what he's going to do. And so we're looking forward to rolling this thing out and getting going at 125 on Sunday.
Sean, it's only been 1 week, but what has it meant to you to have so many coaches returning and not losing leadership?
Yeah, it's big, Maria, and I'll tell you this. There's a trust, there's an understanding of how do we work best together, how do we learn from some of the moments. I think what's been cool about the last couple of years, especially with guys that have been here, we've been through some adversity, and I've seen guys show that they can stay resilient, they can stay steady, so that means a lot. On the flip side, we do have 6 new guys, Jimmy Lake returning, but I'm also so excited about, bringing new guys into the mix and being able to establish, our culture, and they're always a new part of it. And so it's been challenging replacing coaches, but it's also been invigorating because you get to learn from so many people, and you bring your kinds of people in here where there's a similar core value system, but there's also different personalities and experiences that make us, excited about evolving and adapting on a yearly basis. But having leadership positions and the continuity when you're looking at the OCDC, being able to have Aubrey going into his second year as assistant head coach, special teams coordinator with Chase, it's been big, and looking forward to seeing that be a benefit for us.
Sean, the last couple of seasons,
I'll come right to you after this. Go ahead, Sarah.
Teams, specifically the Eagles, had success with the tush push. Have you and Matthew ever discussed adding that?
No. You know what? He's done it for so long, but we always joke he's a terrible sneaker. He ended up having some good sneaks last year, but I think we'll say that the Eagles do it unbelievable, and there's a technique, there's a commitment to it, and it's remarkable. But there's a reason why they've done it different than others. Obviously, Buffalo's another team, but to answer your question, you won't be seeing much tush push from the LA Rams, so we don't have to worry about defending them, of course.
A couple of days ago, you were talking about the Texans pass rush.
Yep.
When you look at the team big picture, what do you feel makes the Texans so lethal or very special? Or
Yep, I think it's the ability to get home with 4. They don't necessarily, I think D'Amico does a great job picking and choosing his spots, but when you can apply pressure with a 4-man rush and play loaded zone where they are so consistent and cognizant of, they understand the issues, their coverages can morph accordingly based on how you distribute the field. And the way that they play, there's a certain style of play that they have. They've got 2 premier guys coming off the edge. They've got a rotation of guys really outside and inside that are excellent, Aaron. And so, but I think the key factor is there's a commitment to a philosophy. They have the right kinds of players to be able to bring it to life, and I got a ton of respect for them.
Come more, guys.
Yeah. it's that. I mean, and I don't know that there's some clear-cut answer, but I think it's, I remember talking to Brad Stevens about this a handful of years ago. I always would ask him, how do you decide on the right amount of information to give your players? And it's different when they're playing 82 games plus more, but, he always used to say, and I thought it really resonated, I want to give them just enough to play great that night. And so I think it's, you want to give these guys just enough to be able to go play great. And certain guys, I think you got to also understand, what does that player want? Matthew Stafford loves having the ownership and autonomy, and I've been around some other quarterbacks that say, hey, I want you to just call the play, and then, I'm going to have a trust that we'll be able to do that and operate accordingly. So I think it's understanding, what do the players want, what are they capable of handling, and ultimately, what's the best way that we can put them in a position to have successful outcomes, snap in and snap out.
How do you feel like Matthew has done just reintegrating himself to the starting quarterback role, just given the amount of time that he had to miss?
Yeah, I think he's been awesome. I think it is a rare situation. He's so sharp. He truly is an extension of the coaches. He's got a bunch of experience. We wanted to have a modified approach to his preseason anyways, so it kind of naturally sorted itself out. I think he's done a great job. We've altered some of the different things that we've done over the last few weeks to get him more reps than maybe we would have done otherwise. So I feel like we made up some ground, and I'm excited to watch him lead the way. It's a good thing for the Rams.
Do you have a plan for how you're going to use your 3 running backs during a game? Do you know basically how many snaps they're going to get, or do you let the flow of the play dictate?
It's a little bit of both, Greg. You have kind of a rotation based on drives, but if you say, okay, we're going, let's just say, for example, you're going on like a 2-to-1. If you go 3 and out, or if you go 15 plays on one of those drives, then maybe you alter and adjust it. But we do have a preset idea of percentage of snaps in a game that you want to come out at. We try to be able to be consistent with that across the board. There's certain positions, offensive linemen, they're playing every single snap unless something unforeseen. The quarterback's playing every snap. But with positions, especially the skill ones on offense, and even some guys on defense based on your personnel groups, receivers, tight ends, backs, we always try to be consistent and have an idea of how we want it to unfold, but the flow of the game is a real thing as well.
Is it hard to stay disciplined in that when you go in knowing kind of what you want it to be, but maybe Kyron is having kind of...
What would you guess?
Damn,
Right? Yeah, it is. And it's a challenge, and I think you have to commit to it. But I think what's really cool of hopefully what we'll be able to do is there's a lot of trust in a lot of our guys, and so it is a challenge though, without a doubt.
Can I say about the
Last one, guys.
sense of urgency going into this year? Does this team feel that?
Oh yeah. I think what we always strive to do, I think what I would hope that you feel from our operation is there's a sense of urgency and an enjoyment, and I think that is a real delicate balance to be able to walk. But I've never seen anything done that was worth it without a sense of urgency. And you kind of just see that more than anything you can say, and you can kind of feel that. And I like the feel that I have from this group, these coaches, these players, just our building as a whole. But I also like the fact that I think guys want to come back the next day. There's an enjoyment. It doesn't have to be miserable pursuing greatness. How do we enjoy all of it? How do we know that we're growing in the midst of maybe some uncomfortable circumstances? But urgency and enjoyment, I would hope that those are calling cards for us. All right?